users I recognize treat the AI as a magic box that, you just put anything inside there, Amoy, and it will give you a response that, you're happy and that's what you want. No, absolutely not. Right? It's a system that functions in a particular way, and it is a system that has to work with the connectivity with all the LLMs, all the data sets, all the patterns and so on inside there, so that you just simply cannot take the result of that prompt you have and run with it. Sometimes what I do is I will take the particular prompt and go into one AI and generate an output. Go into another AI and use the same prompt just to make sure there's consistency between the responses.
Welcome again to the Align to Success podcast. I am your host, Amoy Van Lowe, founder and CEO of Align to Success Limited. And today we are tackling one of the most talked about topics of our time. That is artificial intelligence and how it's reshaping not just companies, but also our personal and professional lives. To guide us through this conversation, I'm going to be joined by Dr. Noel Nunes, a global expert in bank resolution, AI systems designer, and deposit insurance strategist. For over 2 decades, he has worked at the intersection of financial stability and innovation, leading projects like Self-ResolveAI, which uses intelligent modeling to help banks self-manage distress without destabilizing the system. Dr. Nunes also brings his expertise as a lecturer and researcher, where he explores how AI can transform both financial regulation and education. In today's episode, we'll explore some of the most pressing questions professionals are asking about AI. Should we be afraid of it? Will it take our jobs? Has it really made life easier or just more stressful? And what skills will matter most in the next 5 years? This is a conversation for anyone who has ever felt curious, cautious, or even uncertain about the rise of AI in our world. Dr. Nunes, welcome. Welcome to the podcast. I'm glad to have you here today. Thank you for being here. And could you just share a little bit about yourself for us and let the audience know who Dr. Noel Nunes is?
Okay, thank you, Amoy. And yes, I am being involved with AI, of course, as a driving force, since it is now picking up a lot of momentum, not just in Trinidad and Tobago, but around the world. So it was rather easy for me to see it and take a hold of it and started to reshape the way in which I think and plan for my future. Because I believe it's a combination of your experience and the AI, which will carry us through into really adding value to institutions in a real form. And if I can use that as my segue, I've been involved in the banking resolution sector for quite a while. And I know that AI could be used to get rid of all the manual and difficult challenges to make the system of resolving banks less stressful and more timely and effective, putting depositors, putting the financial system in a much better space. And this is why I went into developing the Resolve AI for that specific purpose. But I'm also involved in education, and I've been using the AI as well in my teaching and my lecturing. And that has also lent itself to creating a stronger student population that is more knowledgeable and more aware of AI. So I know I have an opportunity to blend my skills with different components of the education and financial services sector.
Right, right. Well, you really touched on a topic here that is really dear and near to my heart, which is that whole topic of efficiency and using AI to bring efficiency into the industry, whichever industry it is, whether it is the financial services sector or whether it is in education, whatever it is. I think if organizations and people become more efficient, you sort of get back time in your life.
Yes.
So I think, and also removing some of the fear of what AI can do for an organization, for companies and individuals, is really something that's important. So I know we are going to dive into some of those topics. And if you permit me, I would like us to dive into it right now.
Go straight
Um,
ahead.
and so I'd like to ask you our first question, and it's a question that has been posed by quite a few persons on the Align to Success network, and that is, what is your honest thoughts and perspective on how AI will impact companies and individuals, and does it make you excited or fearful?
Right. So let me start off with the end part of that sentence or question. I am excited about it because
I
it,
can tell.
yes, it can go either way. It can go either way. By that, I simply mean this. If organizations, corporates, or whatever, take up the mantle of adopting AI, but they're doing it in the proper and accurate process and methodology, they can take the AI and really drive their forces. If they don't do it with the proper protocols, the proper guardrails, and so on, they will run into difficulty. And I would like to cite the findings of a recent study that was done by MIT, in which they found that 95% of those corporates that tried to adopt AI, they were not successful in terms of growing their revenues and getting into a space where they wanted to get into. Only 5% succeeded. And that 5% is really those who went after the process and understanding AI in a real tangible way, and not just, I suppose, employing and hiring and buying off the shelf AI systems to, grow their organizations. And you will often find difficulties with blends. Blends, keep in mind, AI systems developed to give a certain type of output, a certain type of interaction, and so on. But if
Mhm.
you don't get your organization organized and your data sets and understanding how things tie together and roll together, it's not going to make sense. So that 95% did not look at a proper workflow integration
Mhm.
AI into their organization. They didn't study it properly. They didn't study the guardrails in terms of applying the policies and procedures. Okay, they didn't study the whole issue of the cultural change that was needed to drive that particular item. So they will get into difficulties with that. And that's why I'm saying it's exciting. If you really get on to studying the AI in a positive way, you will see how important this particular item can bring a certain amount of benefit to the organization. And before I dig deeper, Amoy, let me just go into a definition part of it. Uh, Britannica Encyclopedia defined AI basically as a process of using digital computers, digital robots to replicate what intelligent beings are doing through the
Mhm.
forms of reasoning, understanding, learning, and so on. But there's a huge difference in that while it's trying to replicate what human beings are doing, AI systems don't use the learning and the development and so on as we humans do. AI systems utilize something called probabilities, and that probabilities are used from matching like words, like sentences, like pictures, like images, and so on that exists in the large language model. So if you put in a prompt and you request a feedback from the AI system, the AI system will give an output. But if that prompt is worded incorrectly and you're not aware that it's worded incorrectly, and you set up wrong questionings and so on inside your LLM for your corporate needs, what do you think you're going to get? It's not going to be positive output. And that to me is the fundamental. That lack of understanding and appreciation of how this thing works. So yes, there's a little bit of a misnomer in terms of
Mm-hmm.
how we really define AI, because the AI systems really don't learn like a human being. They use probabilities with patterned responses, and they go and search for those patterns. And those patterns that have high probabilities, they link them together and give you an output. Humans don't think like that. We don't reason like that. We don't learn like that. And if you put in a prompt, you get something wrong, you put in another prompt, and so on, and it keeps going down the road like that until you finally get something. There is an individual human being somewhere in the background changing the probabilities. So if you, as a corporate, understand how this thing works, you will get excited, and I am excited. But I also have a little bit of caution attached to that, because it requires a sort of a deep sensibility in terms of understanding how this thing works.
Okay. Okay, I get that. Now, that was a lot to take away. So let me just probably jump in and say probably about 4 or 5 things that I got from it, and it was all good. There is opportunity in AI. That's what
Yes.
I'm getting. There's opportunity in AI. That's one. Organizations and people, or particularly organizations, need to ensure that they implement or they institute the proper guardrails so that AI can be used and it is manageable and it does not impact the organization in a negative way. And
Correct.
that opportunity turns into a solution that is really going to benefit the organization from both efficiency point of view and then eventually from a revenue point of view and also from a competitive edge point of view. That's what I'm hearing.
Yes.
But to do all of that, there must be a building of awareness of what AI is, what it can do, what are the risks of it, and how, as well. I think I heard you stress on it, and I think we've had some of these conversations some time now, which is in creating the right set of prompts and creating accurate and thorough prompts,
Yes.
not using it as people say, using it like Google, but
Yes.
creating proper prompts so that when you put in that prompt with a deep understanding of what it is you're looking for or trying to research, the output is going to be rich in information and content so
Yes.
that you are going to benefit from it. I
Yes.
hope that I have captured at least some of the high level points of it. Noel,
Yes.
please let
Yes.
me know.
Perfectly. Perfectly. Yeah.
Right. Okay. And I think this is what we want our audience, both our corporate audience, to take away, and for the individuals as well, because the individuals are the people that make up the organization. So
Correct.
you need to know these things,
Yes.
and at all levels.
Yes. Correct.
Okay. It's very instructive because the next question that I have to ask you is, do you think I should be afraid of AI, and
You
why or why not?
I love this question so much. And the simple answer to that is no. You see, if you really do some prying and researching and so on, and honestly, the language that is used is not difficult language in terms of how AI is built and developed and structured and so on. The coding might be complicated in terms of the Python and other codes that they use to set up the system. But the way in which the end system operates, it doesn't lend itself to really building fears. Now, if I understand fear, and hear me carefully, if I understand fear from a platform or a catalyst to springboard and jump into development, I will say, yes, be very fearful and take it and drive yourself to learn more about it.
Hmm.
But if you take the fear from a perspective where I do not want to, because I ain't like how this sounding and I'm not too comfortable with this, and I'm not going and digging up and researching and so on, it will set you back. So use the fear from the motivational point of view. And that is where you will find you're transforming not only your mindset, but you're transforming your organization. Nearly everything that you come into contact with will start to get a certain flavor of the AI. I'm not afraid to say all my colleagues that I link up with and chat with, even in my school environment, they get a taste of AI. And that's because I use it so often, and it had really, as I said before, excited me. But again, um, you have to do it in a way in which you really wanted to transform it.
Mhm.
Don't approach the fear with a mindset that you don't want to go and do the additional reading, you don't want to go and do the additional research, the additional digging and finding out case studies and seeing what is working and what is not working. As you know,
I hear you. I hear you. So that sounds like to me it's here what let's have an open mindset. Let's be open about listening to and understanding again, what AI can offer you as an
yes,
individual and how it can help you. So walk into it with an open mindset. Walk
exactly,
into it with a learning sort of perspective
yes,
and just get the information and then adjudicate on it. Don't
yes,
adjudicate on it before you have the information. Is that
yes.
that's where we are,
That
Noel?
is correct.
Yes.
And if I may just add on, they have different forms or different sets of AIs outside there, which can perform so many different tasks. Get your hands on them, label them, look for the location, even buy into some of them if you wish, and set them up. And therefore, also follow some of the persons who are on YouTube and the big names, and see like Sabrina Ramanoff and so on. Get some names and have them there. And as soon as you get a little spare time, put down the TikTok and dig behind the
Yeah,
AI.
yeah. Some good advice. But as much as we sound excited about AI, you also know that it's a controversial topic,
Yes.
and there are people who will go, "Will I lose my job to AI?" What do you think personally? What do you personally think about that particular question? Will I lose my job to AI? Will somebody lose their job to AI?
Right. And if I could just reword that a little bit, Amoy, I
Sure.
would say, would I allow my job to be sidelined, or would I allow myself to be replaced? And then that makes sense because it's not the AI really, it's the human being. If the human being has a skill set, I mean, I have accumulated, you have accumulated, and several people have accumulated skills. The AI cannot make decisions on its own. There is a certain amount of human intervention that is required to make proper decision, judgment calls, opinions, and so on. The AI cannot do that. It can take care of repetitive, mundane tasks and so on. So, as the individual understands that process and they have that level of skill that they have, and they can now take it and use AI to give them a sort of result with the skills that they have. Trust me, that is now a more marketable person, certainly a more marketable person. And even if it means a fair bit of their tasks are now replaced by AI, it frees them up from that to do more challenging things with AI because you have the hands-on experience with it.
And you've
So
gotten back some time. And you've
yes,
gotten back some
exactly.
time. Yeah.
Yes, yes,
Yeah. So essentially what you're saying is that we have more power as humans if we use AI, as well as we get more time back to do other things, other more complex tasks. We can get into
yes,
probably more leisure because we are
yes,
able to use AI to more efficiently do what it is we have to do. So the big takeaway for me here, Noel, is really I have more power than AI, and if I know that, and if that's in my mindset, and I operate that way, I am going to be more in control of my
exactly,
destiny than AI is going to be in
exactly.
control.
I couldn't put it better. Very good.
Great. Well, and I thought that those were the hard questions. So let me see if I can move into a question that's more difficult.
Sure.
If you had to bet on just a few skills that will be most relevant in 5 years, what would they be and why?
Right. The first one I'm always governance literacy.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay,
that animal, I'm calling it an animal, and the reason why I'm calling it an animal is because it's a huge thing.
okay.
I'm making reference here basically to um, how we apply all the controls, guardrails, and so on, following what we refer to as the General Data Protection Regulation. The acronym for it is GDPR, and we have the National Institute of Standards and Technology, which is the NIST in the US. Once we apply those kinds of principles and we understand the whole issue of going about the AI in a proper structured form, we are okay. So that's a skill you will need. Definitely.
Hmm.
Nobody should take to use AI and not understand all the little legal requirements, frameworks, and so on that are impacting these things. And I could
And
go,
would you say, I'm
sure, go
sorry,
ahead.
no, would you say that organizations have governance literacy personnel within the organizations now?
Right. They that use it will have it. I'm pretty certain about it. But a fair bit of them may not. And if I could just add a little on to that, the GDPR, even the NIST, they have what you call a human in the loop.
Mhm.
So stay with me on that one. The AI is not functioning all on its own without some human being involved or connected to the system. That is written hardcore into both the GDPR and the NIST.
Right.
So it means to say if a company from, I don't know, Trinidad is going into Europe or whatever, and they have AI and so on, they will run into some challenges because it means they have to get that connectivity of understanding,
Hmm.
the linkages between the two spaces, even though Trinidad may have its own data protection policy.
Right.
If it's not built and developed with theirs, we will have some issues. The other key item of skill sets I think we need is something called data stewardship and confidentiality. We have to set up a system, a mindset that if we're going to use data, do not expose the organization for which you work for by taking their confidential data and putting it into the AI to get results and get things that you want to, you know, to produce your output. Don't do that because the system will store it and put it through its entire LLM, and that private and confidential data will be a breach, and therefore it will now be in the public space in the LLM.
Mhm.
So one has to be extremely careful in terms of that um, application. It's really very important, right? And if I may just add one more,
Yes.
the whole issue of understanding the functionality of the system, yeah, that's a skill you need because the system is not a straightforward system of putting in a prompt. You need to have, we mentioned it a little while ago, you need to have an understanding of, I don't want to use too difficult words, prompt engineering skills. You have to have a good, strong background in that so that at the end of the day, when the system generates something for you, Amoy, you have to be able to validate it
Hmm.
and not just take the thing and run with it. If you cannot validate, you are not in a position to take the information and make sense out of it. You see? And
Yes.
that's really, I'd say the three main ones from where I sit.
Yeah, I'm quite interested in the third one. I mean, they're all, I think, very key. And
Yes.
why I'm interested in the third one particularly is because in our interaction, probably a couple of weeks ago or a few weeks ago, I remember you coaching and guiding me on writing the correct prompts. And
Yes.
I will tell this audience the prompt I had and the prompt you had. Okay, so sorry, let me just explain it differently. The prompt I had was probably about 4 or 5 lines. And the prompt that Dr. Noel Nunes had, our guest here today, was, I think it was about a page
Yeah.
long. And I thought, an audience, I'll tell you, I said, oh no, he created what it is I wanted. You did not. I studied that prompt for almost a week before I even considered using it because I was absolutely amazed of, I guess, the level of detail that had to go into a prompt so that you could have actually gotten the type of information that you needed. But
Yes.
but you know what really clicked is when I heard people say, don't use LLM as like Google. Don't use it like Google. You have to use it more wisely. I
Yes.
better understood it after our interaction and after
Yes.
you were coaching me
Yes.
on how to actually prepare a prompt that
Yes.
makes sense. Yeah.
Yes. And if I may just add on it, see, because I understand how the, I don't want to say the brain, but how the AI operates in looking for patterns with similar words or similar sentences, similar images, and so on. And they're applying probabilities.
Yeah.
The way in which I could get the best probability is to make sure that that prompt is as rich as I can make it out to be.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that is it. Make that prompt as rich as possible.
Yeah.
So my next question is really about misconceptions. I think there's quite a few. When we live in the world of AI, there's a lot. What do you think is the biggest misconception, that professionals have right now about AI?
Right. And I will take the last point I was raising there as a segue. A lot of users I recognize treat the AI as a magic box that, you just put anything inside there, Amoy, and it will give you a response that, you're happy and that's what you want. And no, absolutely not. Right? It's a system that functions in a particular way, and it is a system that has to work with the connectivity with all the LLMs, all the data sets, all the patterns, and so on inside there, so that you just simply cannot take the result of that prompt you have and run with it. Sometimes what I do is I will take the particular prompt and go into one AI and generate an output. Go into another AI and use the same prompt just to make sure there's consistency
Yeah.
between the responses. I know they are scraping the same LLM data sets and so on, but they have different probabilities assigned to the patterns in their
Mhm.
LLM spaces. So I know that once they generate something that is consistent, I know that I'm kind of in the right space. Really, that's where it is. So don't see it as a magic box. It's not a magic box. You must put some effort behind it.
Well, that's I think that's good advice. And do you think AIs have made people's life easier or more stressful?
Right. That was one of the best questions I saw inside there. Well, I have to say it depends. Those who use the system, as we had mentioned a little earlier on, with all the guardrails, all the protocols, all the ethics, everything that governance, proper rules, proper policies and procedures, confidentiality, and so on. They have nothing to worry about. Those who use it but didn't take the time to go and get that sort of research done, they will have problems sleeping at night because it means you're carrying a huge exposure if you're going to use the thing in a way that is unethical, that is not properly um, supported by policy and procedures, a whole host of different governance rules, the GDPR, the NIST. If you don't pack that kind of thinking into the training
Mhm.
of individuals, you're not going to get the kind of results you want.
Okay. This question that I had, formulated, I feel to be a bit tricky, but let's go. What do you what do you say to someone who feels lost or uncertain in a world where machines are starting to outperform
Right.
humans?
Right. I will use a simple example of the calculator. When the calculator came on board, the calculator was doing things faster than us. And that never really affected any outperformance thoughts or concerns that we might have had. But I want to cite some examples here. China recently introduced a policy that will allow students at both the primary and the secondary level to start doing AI mandatory. There's a reason why they're doing it that way. Albania recently introduced, hear me carefully, a minister of AI in procurement. Now, this is not a human minister looking after AI. This is an AI LLM system with all the trappings of the machine learning and so on in the background, functioning like a human being because they feel that the procurement system is corrupted if it is done purely by human beings.
Mhm.
So the whole issue of this thing outperforming and it's not going to get you in a space where you feel comfortable with and so on. The world is moving too fast. We don't have time to sit, and let this thing evolve in a space where countries get so developed with it and we are so behind. We increase what we call the divide, the AI divide. And that is what you don't want to do, right? So I think once you understand how serious some countries are taking it on board and developing themselves and utilizing it from a proper leverage point of view, you will see that they're making some serious headway with it. And we just can't afford to sit back and wait. Otherwise, we'll always be behind.
Well, I guess you segued right into this question that I really love, which is, can we really stop AI from becoming mainstream?
Excellent. And my simple answer to that is no, we can't. You see, the real thing is this. Once we put the controls, the guardrails, the governance, and so on in place, it will eventually take over most of the things that we're doing. It's a new framework, a new mindset, a new way in which we do things. And the efficiencies, stay with me, the efficiencies that we get from the proper implementation, and this is with everything that we spoke about, all the guardrails, all the governance, and so on, ethics, everything you can think about. It will lend itself into not giving you even the second thought. Let's put it that way. It is not going to allow you to second think it, and therefore you will be taking it up like myself and just running with it. And of course, you're just making sure that you don't overstep your bounds and so on. Now, there's a little bit of a concern. Let me just add a little downside risk. Some persons have this view that if you take the AI and you not necessarily abuse it, but you overuse it, it will put you in a space where you minimize your own brain power and therefore your capacity to think critically and apply judgment will be affected because you're using too much of AI. That's reasonable. I'm not going to quarrel with that. Again, everything depends on how individuals respond from a balanced perspective with it, right? It's like everything else. You abuse it or you overuse it, you're going to have some challenges.
What as you said that, there's a troubling question that I have from a couple young people, two of them my daughters, and they are in the arts, and they say this AI thing is really going to impact my ability as we move forward. It's taking over. It's going to copy my work, my original work. What do we say to the artists and the creatives when it comes to AI, and how should they view AI, and how do they use it in their creative space? Because that's a space. I know we were talking finance all the time,
Yes.
or at least we had a finance slant. My question is, how do we help creatives?
Right. So I will use a little bit of my education experience with the AI and so on and that, and I'll just bring it over into the artistic mindset. So there are students who face the temptation, the great temptation, because they're working and so on. They're very busy, and the AI is there to, let's say, do an entire paper, entire essay, and so on for them. And they think that if they use that methodology, they're somehow thinking through the thing. But guess what? Their voice, VOICE, their voice is lost if they use the AI like that. And the same thing will apply for the art. Use the AI as a sort of an idea generator. So you get the AI into a space where you ask certain questions, and of course, your prompts and so on are clean and tidy, and you try to get ideas in terms of how you could see things through different lenses, a different perspective, a different view. But don't, don't perceive the AI as though the AI is going to come and replicate an artistic piece. And you take that as though that is yours. That's not yours, you see? So one always has to be conscious about the whole issue of how far they can use the AI to really help themselves. And if you stay within that kind of mindset and that kind of mind frame, implicitly, you're applying a fair bit of ethics and your own personal standards and governance and so on, all of that in the background. Most importantly, you're not giving up. You're not giving up your skill set for something that is automating and generating an electronic version of it.
Someone was detected at the front door.
Yeah, I think that's a powerful bit of guidance and information for creatives and for everyone who wants to use
Yeah,
AI.
yeah.
So, I mean, this conversation has been like really excellent and I think very useful. Some really good nuggets in terms of guidance, some things to focus on. And as we wrap up, um, are there any final thoughts that you want to share with the audience? Anything that you would like to advise, guide, drop some more nuggets in before we wrap up?
Yes, the most important thing is to get your hands dirty. Now, like mostly everybody else, when I started, I got involved with a lot of the training and reading and so on. And I figured to myself that, listen, maybe I was spending a little too much time with that. It is only when I started to get into the whole issue of developing the Resolve AI, I also developed a system that would uh, generate proper research papers, right? I got into areas of using my hands to not only understand the AI, but build the AI systems.
Mhm.
And that little message, Amoy, is what I am trying to get across now to the students whom I teach. Do not come out of this college or school with an MBA and think you are ready for the world of work. In today's environment, do not. So I have already started to build hands-on applications to help the students become more kosher, more familiar, more brave in terms of taking the AI and starting to filter it into different segments of their courses so that when they go into their work environments, the next transition is to simply take the little hands-on that they got and they can build from there on their own. That's really where it is.
Great, great. So it sounds as though we will have a part two of this at some point in time. We can talk some
Certainly.
more about that. So I just want to say thank you very much, Dr. Nunes, for joining us today and for sharing your insights. And I mean, it's really some really great insights, I think, for both corporate and individuals at the same time. You've really helped us to cut through the fear and the hype around AI and shown us that while the technology is powerful, it's ultimately how we as individuals and organizations choose to use it. And that is what is going to shape the future. So
Exactly.
to our listeners, I hope this conversation left you not only informed but also empowered. At least I feel a lot more empowered every single time I talk to Dr. Nunes and my good friend Noel. I feel like I'm an AI expert, and I know I'm not there yet, but I will. I continue to be and empowered to think about your own skills, your career, and how you can adapt in a world where AI is really quickly becoming part of
Yes.
our everyday life.
Yes.
So this has been the Alliance to Success podcast. I'm your host, Amoy Van Lowe, and thank you for tuning in. And I'll see you next time.